This is KUTV Primetime News with Irene Mwangi.
Thank you for staying tuned. As we promised, our discussion tonight will be about science and why the future is science. And tonight joining us is Mr. Alexander Matoke, who is the CEO of the Generation Alpha Scientist Initiative, which is GASE. Many thanks indeed, Mr. Alexander Matoke, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. As you have heard, my name is Alexander Matoke. I'm the CEO for Generation Alpha Science Initiative, which is an initiative, an NGO which is supporting STEM matters in Kenya.
All right. Now, when you talk about STEM, not many people really quite understand what STEM is all about and what really it entails. Some will mention it to be science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But what really is STEM, and how is it helping in our education system at the moment?
Actually, you are right. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we have to combine the four so that we can have an integrated system whereby we can create a diversity of knowledge and information to learners, which is going to help them, more especially if they are pursuing a STEM career and getting into the STEM job employment in future. Yes.
But now, when you look into our education system, what can be elaborated as the relevance of STEM education? Why will students be inculcated to STEM education at quite an early age in the education system?
I can say that STEM is the future. The challenges we have gone through previously, they have taught us a lot of lessons. Like if you look at the issue of coronavirus, COVID-19, the technique which you have used like to make drugs, we actually have used like genetic engineering, like messenger RNA, that is STEM. And STEM is the panacea, we can say, to all the challenges we might be facing even in future. Like you look at the current and emerging situations, STEM is the way to go. Yes.
But when we look into our education system, we are seeing some sort of gender disparity when it comes to the amount of, or the number of girls quite inculcated into the STEM education. This could be due to stereotype, due to cultural norms. Given that General Alpha has been in scientist innovation, has been in the country for some period now, what are some of the measures that have been taken to solve this particular gender disparity in STEM education here in the country?
It is true, as you are saying, that we have some stereotypes whereby society perceives STEM to be a male affair, but I know there are some organizations and the initiatives from the government and other stakeholders who are like advising ladies to major in STEM. And I know that most of the ladies who have majored into STEM, they have benefited a lot. Now, there are a few challenges. And these challenges, as you have said, they can be cultural. And we are really, as an organization, we are working on that because we are bringing ladies on board. We are looking for mentors who are mentoring these ladies, who are like telling them that we went through the same process, and this is what we did, and we also expect that you can go through the same channel and you can be successful as ourselves. Yes.
Now, when you look into our education system, let's go back to matters education, because even the initiative is supporting education from primary school to secondary school and even to tertiary. We have not seen the uptake of this particular path of STEM education at an early age. Perhaps, what are some of the initiatives being done now that we have adopted the CBC learning? Are we foreseeing a situation whereby our children can be inculcated at an early age before they catch up with the stereotypes that we're having concerning science, technology, engineering, and mathematics?
I think if you look at children and if you have interacted with the children are born with some innate traits which portray that eventually they like STEM. STEM is likable to everybody. It's only like maybe sometimes the society and the environment somebody's brought up tends to change. Actually, we can normally say that all children are born like geniuses. And then the education system they go through, it is what changes them at a particular point in their life. Now, every child is curious. If you look at a child from as early as 2 years old, you can see that they are very curious. They like innovating. They are very creative. If you can say child plays, the way they play along with their friends. I think we can give an example. You have seen maybe a child interacting with their friends. Maybe they wanted to cook some food. They go, they get maybe some soil. They can use urine as water. If they cannot access water, that is creativity. You can see they go like making maybe some grass to make some like vegetables. They know that. You can see how they serve themselves. They are very much organized. But now through the system which we carry them through, it's what changes them and makes them to learn that there are limits. Actually, these children are limitless, and most probably ourselves as parents and the education system, we are the one who limit their abilities.
Right.
Yes.
Now, looking at STEM, when you focus into science and mathematics in our system of education in primary and secondary schools, we have seen a situation whereby there's shortage of workforce in terms of teachers to teach science subject and mathematics subject. It has been a crisis for some counties, including Garissa, due to the issue of insecurity in the area. They have had mathematics teachers and science teachers not being available, and therefore that means students who decided or are inclined to STEM courses are now sort of alienated because of not having teachers. Perhaps the system gaps you're having in supporting STEM education, have they been quite addressed by the Ministry of Education at this particular time?
I think we can say STEM education is a concept which not so many people understand. And the way you teach STEM is not the way you can go teaching biology, chemistry, because that's what everybody perceives the STEM to be. Like you can give a concept in chemistry, a concept in biology, a concept in physics, and then you do exam, you pass, you get your grade, you go. If we have been keen, we have seen engineers, which is a very lucrative course in Kenya, who are jobless. You have seen medical doctors who are jobless. The ideology of STEM and the concept behind is having an integrated abilities whereby these learners can be able to link and interact all these concepts together so that it gives a product. And this product can be that ability to create employment. And instead of being a job seeker, you can be a job creator, and that is actually the role of STEM. Yes.
Now, let's now move away from primary and secondary education and now focus to tertiary institutions and universities like Kenyatta University. We have seen innovations quite coming up. They might be robotic or artificial innovations, and here in Kenyatta University has been one of the vibrant institutions when it comes to that. Are they receiving enough support so that you can see even more and more ideas being turned into innovations and that sort of a thing? As Generation Alpha Science Initiative, are you foreseeing that? Are you seeing the support now being done to tertiary institutions and universities?
Actually, we can say that the tertiary institutions, in a way, they are trying, and we really appreciate, more especially like the government, and they're trying to insist on this TVET education. But now we have some bit of challenges. The challenges is like the traditional kind of teaching. Actually, I'm an alumni from Kenyatta University, and I pursued their course in STEM. I think the university tries, if you compare with other institutions, but I think we still have a long way to go. I can say like whatever we are doing at the moment is just maybe raindrops in an ocean, and we need to do more. Now, coming to your question, we need to have more support. And this support can come from different stakeholders. And the stakeholders cannot be just a learning institution. We have employers outside there, people are in the labor market. You can look at the job landscape, the way it's changing, everything is inclined towards STEM. You can see like there is some jobs which are diminishing. Other jobs, we have upcoming jobs. And you see, most of the upcoming jobs, they are in the STEM sector. If you look at the issue of robotics, I'm sure there are so many people who have never seen a robot and who don't understand how a robot operates. I really wish that we could have a system, more especially in the universities, because with them we can't compare higher learning institutions with the primary schools and secondary schools. The reason being with them, they can be able to access maybe some funding, like maybe through writing proposals and asking for some funding. You are dealing with learners who are mature enough and who have already decided their path of their career that they want to pursue STEM. So in this case, what we could really ask is also learners to take initiative. Because at the end of the day, when you go through all this process and you remain jobless, you suffer. And at the end of the day also, the parent who has invested a lot of resources in the learners for almost 20 years also suffers. So what we can request is we bring on board all the stakeholders who are involved, right from the government. We have civil societies, and that is where we are coming in as Generation Alpha Sciences Initiative. Robotics is the way to go, and if you look at the job market and the diminishing jobs, you realize that most of these jobs are getting replaced by machines, because machines can be able to learn. They are in fact becoming more intelligent than ourselves. These machines can be able to, their production is higher. Machines can also, you have never had a machine which says that I'm sick. A machine can never take you to court. So even myself, if I was an industrialist, I would prefer maybe using robotics, artificial intelligence as compared to a human being. So what are we supposed to do? We need to train our learners so that they know the upcoming job opportunities and the job creation opportunities. Like for example, if we can talk about those robotics, we can train learners on how to come up with programs, making of these robots. In the future, we are going to have a situation whereby having robotics and robots, we need raw materials for the establishment of such robots. So I think that is where our education system is supposed to be geared to at the moment.
All right. Now let's focus on the national outlook. We move away from primary, secondary and tertiary institution and now look at the national outlook when it comes to the input of STEM. We are having Vision 2030, and STEM education has been said to be backbone of that particular vision. Now, the fact that we have come now 9 years to 2030, are we foreseeing where a situation where STEM will be the backbone as it is, or are we too late in terms of supporting and encouraging and creating streamlines for STEM education in our institutions?
To me, I can say it has never been late. You can start from where you are at the moment. The speed at which you can move is what determines the outcome. I'm foreseeing a situation whereby STEM is going to be the only solution to the achievement of Vision 2030. And not just Vision 2030 because we are localizing it. We can look at the standard development SDGs. You can see, if you look at from the first one up to the last, or the 17th SDG, then you can realize that STEM is the way to go. Look at the issue of job creation and employment is a very big challenge in Kenya. Look at food production or food security. You need STEM biotechnology. You need food storage mechanisms which are innovative. You need to reduce wastage. Also that STEM. Look at if you want to develop sustainable cities, like what the government is doing, establishing Konza City, which I think they are doing a very great idea. And sustaining these cities, you need to look at issues of like earthquakes and how these buildings will be affected in such a case. So we need the engineers, architects, and the designers who put those factors into consideration. If you look at the healthcare system, we need to have a healthy population. When you have a healthy population, health is wealth. You have people who are working. You reduce the cost of medical bills. So in this case, we need to have like improved technologies which will bring about sustainable healthcare. Look at the issue of resistance to antibiotics is a very big challenge. We are foreseeing it to be the greatest challenge in future. Look at issues like cancer. And through STEM, I know we can be able to provide solutions and get medication for such challenges.
All right. Now we can't talk about the positive aspect without talking about the negative aspect. And then by the negative, I mean challenges that have sort of inhibited STEM growth in terms of research, in terms of advocating for more. Perhaps looking into Kenya and the African continent, what are some of the challenges that have affected STEM by large, and especially at this time of the pandemic, where every sector has been hit?
There are so many challenges which are affecting implementation of STEM, more especially in schools and higher learning institutions. Number one, we have the problem of poverty, inadequacy of resources. You know, there is no time when you can ever say that resources are enough. Resources are always scarce. And if we could have enough resources, then it is possible that we could have the right infrastructure like laboratories, research institutions, research centers, even in learning institution, which can create that element of creativity in learners, that urge to do research, to innovate, to discover. So one of the challenges is inadequacy of resources. Another challenge is people are so much resistant to change, despite the fact that we have realized that STEM is the way to go, and they will provide solutions to many of the challenges and problems we have. We need to retrain our teaching fraternity, more especially teachers. You see, I know you were a student at one time and you did chemistry. I know your father did the iteration. You did the iteration.
Yeah, sure I did.
Your child will do the iteration. The same concept and the curriculum you went through with the same curriculum we are going through. These teachers have not been retrained. So in their case, they are teaching what they were taught and what they know. So we have to find a mechanism whereby we have to retrain and reskill these teachers to adopt different teaching styles. Like now we have synthesis as a teaching methodology, which is creating that, broadening the reasoning of learners. We also have the issue of peer teaching, whereby learners take initiative to teach themselves and others. We have another pedagogy technique like we can have another teaching pedagogy like project-based learning, whereby like if you were introducing a learner, like more especially to a drone, a learner can see a drone, look at a drone, see what the drone is doing, and then you make it as a project where the learner will understand how does the drone function, what programs which are required, which is the process, which maybe I can be able to design maybe a prototype of a drone. I think that's what we are supposed to look at. So that challenge of reskilling is a big challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
So apart from that now, because as we finalize, because we are pressed on time, in 1 minute, we have seen different initiatives come up with different ways of supporting schools and different ways of supporting tertiary institutions when it comes to STEM education. As a General Alpha Scientist Initiative, what are you doing in terms of supporting STEM education as an NGO in 1 minute as we finalize?
STEM, in our GASI, we are doing a lot. Number one, we are initiating STEM camp activities in learning institutions, whereby we talk to learners and teachers about STEM, what it is and its relevance and the way it is applicable. Then we also train learners about emerging innovations like robotics and artificial intelligence, and then we tell them to take serious interest in that, because that is the way to go. And then we also train teachers on we hold seminars and conferences for teachers so that they can look at the teaching methodology. Also, we do virtual training to parents so that they can also be engaged actively in the learning of their children, because learning begins at home. And by the time you bring a child to school, maybe at around 6-7 years, that time the learner should be having a lot of information. So when you go to school, actually the function of the school is to train a learner to read. And after you have learned to read, then you read to learn.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander Matoke, for making time and giving us a perspective concerning STEM education and why it should be inculcated in our education system and moving forward.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, that has been Mr. Alexander Matoke, of course, giving us a perspective concerning the issue of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. He says science is the future, and we should focus that if we are to achieve Vision 2030 and get at par to the technological and digital world. Now we are taking a short break. We'll be back with more